Okay, colleagues, we'll come back to order, and we're at item 12.2.1 on the Regional Council agenda, and that is a noise exemption request from Dalhousie for Snowfest 2026. Members of council, our public hearing today is based on that very request. We'll start with a staff presentation and questions of clarification from members of council. The public hearing will then open, and the applicant will be given an opportunity to present. After that, we'll go to the public hearing speakers. There are no pre-registered speakers for this evening's hearing, but speakers can come forward from the gallery. Speakers can participate for a maximum of 5 minutes, and we ask that you keep your comments respectful, on topic, and directed to the chair. The clerk will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining, and then they will announce again when your time is complete. Madam Clerk, can you confirm if any correspondence has been received for this evening's public hearing?
All correspondence has been distributed to Regional Council.
Okay, thank you very much. No correspondence. We will now have the staff presentation, and I see that we have Vicky Aguinaga here to present to us today. Vicky, the floor is yours when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Fillmore and members of council. My name is Vicky Aguinaga, and I am the Support Services Supervisor with Community Standards and Compliance. We are here this evening in response to an application submitted by Dalhousie Student Union. There's a member of the organization here to speak on behalf of their application. They are seeking an exemption from the bylaw N200 respecting noise for their Dalhousie Snowfest 2026, which is a concert. Following a review of their application, it is recommended that Halifax Regional Council approve the request for a noise bylaw exemption in accordance with this report and any matters raised during this hearing. As detailed on page 2 of the report, the event is scheduled to take place from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. on Thursday, February 5th, 2026, and an exemption from the bylaw N200 respecting noise is required only for the period of 9:30 p.m. to 12 a.m. Thank you, Mayor Fillmore and members of council. That concludes the key points I wish to highlight regarding this report.
Thanks very much, Vicky. And just before you leave the podium there, I'll ask members of council if they have any questions of clarification for you. And I'm not seeing any. Okay, excellent. Oh, sorry, Councillor White, please.
My question is around 11 versus 12 o'clock. I guess I had some pre-conversation and I thought the noise was going to stop at 11. Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, so the concert goes until 11 p.m. However, the teardown of the event goes from 11 to 12. They are all hoping to be well out of there before midnight, though.
So, but like, what if there's noise? I don't know, maybe this is a later question, but if there's noise between 11 and 12, can that be stopped, or are they allowed to be loud until midnight?
My understanding is that it would be up to the findings of this council. So they're hoping for the hour to tear down, but they did say that it wouldn't take the entire hour. But the noise would not include any of the amplified noise that a concert includes. It would just include kind of the tear down of the stage as well as some moving of trucks. Just a little more noise than would be normally there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And just so that we're all clear, the exemption request is for 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. all the way to midnight, and the music ends at 11. Yeah. Okay. Very good. And then I don't see any other questions of clarification. I'd now like to invite the applicant, William Student Union, to speak. Come on up when you're ready. The floor is yours, and you have 10 minutes, William. Welcome.
Is this one on? Yeah. Apologies. Thank you so much, Mayor Fillmore and Council for having me tonight. I'm excited to announce that we're seeking the noise exemption as part of a broader harm reduction strategy. Obviously, Monroe Day has historically been fairly rambunctious in and around Dalhousie, as well as homecoming, and so, in coordination with the university and other stakeholders in the immediate vicinity, this is part of a broader effort to, acknowledge that noise exists around a campus, acknowledge that, students, some of whom, are fairly young, first time away from home, there's a lot of energy that they'd like to let out occasionally, but finding ways to channel that, to limit that, to do it in a productive way. So yes, to the point, we are seeking the noise exemption up until 12. The music would be over as of 11 p.m. But the reason we were seeking for the full hour remaining was really, again, because of trucks, also, helping the crowd disperse and so on. Candidly, I don't think it'll be the same situation we had where we may need more of the hour with something like DalFest this year, which was in a more temperate summer environment. When folks aren't dancing, they will ultimately be standing on a field of snow. So I think they will probably return home fairly quickly. But that was the logic behind the additional hour, as well as getting some other higher value items like generators and things like that out, which require heavier machinery. But it would be no later than 12, and again, we expect it to end much sooner than that. I think that's really all we have to say. It's fairly simple. We think that giving folks something to do the night before is better than the morning after. But ultimately, I leave that to the discretion of this committee. So thank you so much for hearing us.
Thank you very much, William. I appreciate that very much. And I'm going to ask my colleagues if they have any questions of clarification for the applicants. And not seeing any. Fantastic. Seeing no further questions, I'll now open the public hearing. So members of the public will be given 5 minutes to address the topic. If you would like to speak, please come up to the microphone and state your name and the name of the community in which you reside. You can see a timer there next to the dais, and you can monitor your own speaking time. The clerk will also help you by holding up a yellow sign when there are 30 seconds remaining and when your time is complete. And again, please keep your comments respectful, on topic, and directed to the chair. Are there any speakers? Are there any speakers? Yes, I see a hand up. Please come on up, and you are on the Dalhousie noise. I just want to make sure that this is on the Dalhousie noise exemption bylaw. Okay, very good. You seem very well prepared there for laptop and water and everything. Okay, we'll come along shortly to the budget public hearing. Then I have to ask a third time. Are there any speakers? No speakers on the noise bylaw. So that brings us to the need for a council motion to close the public hearing. Could I see Councillor Hartling and a seconder, Councillor Steele? And I don't see any discussion from council on the board. So the question has been called, and this, colleagues, is a hand vote. So all in favor of the exemption, please signify. Well, what do you say we put the motion on the floor to? This is to close the public hearing. There we go. That's the motion. So show of hands to close the public hearing. Very good. It's been a long day, friends in the gallery. We're going to get through this together. Okay, so the public hearing is now closed. And there are no questions of clarification from staff. And now I would like to ask for someone to table the motion, please. Perhaps Councillor White. Yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Halifax Regional Council approve the Dalhousie Student Union Snowfest 2026 application for an exemption from the provisions of the noise bylaw pursuant to the contents of the staff report dated January 20, 2026, and any matters raised at the public hearing.
Did you get the second there?
Becky, I think?
Oh, it's Councillor Purdy? Okay.
Kent.
Oh, it's Councillor Kent. Beg your pardon. Thank you. Okay, would anyone like to speak to the motion? Not seeing anyone. What's your pleasure, colleagues? Questions have been called, and this is a recorded vote, so we'll vote digitally, please. And the motion carries unanimously. It's a good outcome for William and Snowfest 2026. Congratulations, enjoy it. And Vicky, thank you for your help as well. Now, what's... the Budget Committee. So colleagues, at this point, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn, and then we're going to reconvene as the Budget Committee. So I see Councillor Purdy with the motion to adjourn and Councillor Kent with the second. We are adjourned, and then I'm going to invite the Chair of the Budget Committee, Councillor Deagle-Gammon, to take this seat, and we will recommence as the Budget Committee.
Krista, are we ready? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Budget Committee meeting, Standing Committee of the Whole. On this date, January 27th, 2026. We'll do the call to order. My name is Kathy Deagle-Gammon. I'm Councillor for District 1, Waverly Fall River, Musquodoboit Valley. So we'll call to order in our land acknowledgement that the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and the traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. The second item on our agenda is the approval of the order of business and the approval of additions or deletions. Madam Clerk.
There are no additions or deletions from the clerk's office.
Thank you. And third is a call for declaration of conflicts of interest. Seeing none, we move to the reason for this meeting this evening, which is public participation. Speakers can participate for a maximum of 5 minutes. Oh, sorry. A motion to approve the order of business. Apologies, Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Steele. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. I was so excited to get to public participation. So, speakers can participate for a maximum of 5 minutes. After everyone on the list has been given an opportunity to speak, I will call 3 times to ask if there are any other speakers. Speakers can participate in person, or if you're pre-registered by the deadline, you have the option to participate using Zoom. As a reminder to those watching, in order to have signed up as a Zoom speaker, the deadline was 4:30 the business day prior to the meeting. However, there is no deadline to speak in person, as long as you're present in the chamber now. At this moment, we have 26 speakers registered and 10 have chosen to use Zoom today. Madam Clerk, for the speakers who are using Zoom, when it's close to your turn to speak, for speakers using Zoom, when it's close to your turn to speak, the staff will promote you to Zoom. I'm reading yours, Krista. Madam Clerk, you get to give this direction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For speakers using Zoom, when it is close to your turn to speak, staff will promote you in Zoom to allow you to turn your mic and camera on. You will leave the Zoom meeting immediately. When this happens, then you will reconnect with controls available. Please leave your mic muted until the chair calls your name.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So our first 3 speakers are Trino Morton, Sydney Haynes, and then Lori Batten. So welcome, Trino Morton. Yep, right at the podium is great.
No, can I move the podium? I don't want to. That's what I was thinking. I said, you're with. Good to begin. Oh, good evening, council members. My name is Trino Morton. I'm the founder and president of the North End Halifax Community Land Trust, better known as New Roots CLT. I come before you tonight not as a community organizer, but as a son, a brother, uncle, someone who has lived the consequences of decisions made in this room. In my community, you're more likely to know someone who suffered a gunshot wound than someone who graduated from post-secondary education. It's not a reflection of who we are, it's a reflection of what has been done to us. My father was shot 5 times, my brother was shot once, sister stabbed to death in Ontario, and I had to watch the replay of her murder in the courtroom frame by frame. We did not create the conditions that led to this violence, we inherited them. We inherited the consequences of urban renewal, we inherited the consequences of disinvestment. We're still paying the price. The city has made promises before, the promise to residents of Africville who were displaced, removed from their homes and community. 400 residents, 23 acres, expropriated, demolished. In 1967, you offered $700,000 in compensation. Adjusted for inflation, that would be $6.5 million today. Families lost generational wealth, and a community was erased. Between 2006 and 2016, another 700 Black residents were pushed to the North End, a 50% collapse in a decade. And this council has not once reached out to New Roots to seriously consider our ask for Cogswell Parcel D, not once. Let me illustrate the disparities you have created in this city. Do you know what you have done? Do you know what we don't have? Adequate air conditioning, proper ventilation, basic climate control. The George Dixon Center, municipally owned, has no adequate cooling. I had a seizure there triggered by heat. I know for a fact none of this would stand in South End neighborhoods. And consider St. Joseph's Alexander Elementary, where my nephew goes, in North End. In 2021, that school was closed. The original promise was for students to have a new school within 2 years. That was 5 years ago. 5 years, hundreds of children have been bused across town to a rundown facility on Walnut Street in South End with mold, rodents, and no gymnasiums. Kids don't fit, and the construction was supposed to be done in 2023, then 2025, now midway through 2026. Meanwhile, South End youth go to proper schools. North End kids, we wait and wait and wait. This is not accidental, it's a choice. Council, we must look at the ledger of history. This is not just a request for land, it's a proposal to settle a debt measured in dollars, lives, and community erasure. For 60 years, the African Nova Scotian community in North and Halifax faced displacement funded by federal, provincial, and municipal governments. Conservative estimate placed economic loss to over 100 million. This is not a coincidence. This is policy. This is consequence. In Africville, families were woken by bulldozers erasing their homes. Now my mother wakes up to bulldozers building luxury condos in the neighborhood we built but can no longer afford. Communities dismantled, voices unheard. We're asking Council to transfer Cogswell Parcel D to the New Roots Community Land Trust. The municipality is investing over $100 million in the Cogswell district. Parcel D is less than 10% of that investment. We're asking for a sliver of what is already being committed. This one parcel must be different. It will be owned by community in perpetuity, provide permanently affordable housing. It'll secure space for Black-owned businesses and culture being priced out of existence. The market has had 60 years to solve this problem and it has failed. New Roots CLT is here and ready now. We need a council motion. We need a seat in the law, not just at the table. On Parcel D, New Roots aims to build 430 units of deeply affordable and mixed income housing, 430 homes where families can stay safe, where families can stay, where a mother can live in safety, where young people can build their futures in their own community. We anchor this with a performance space where North End artists perform for paying audiences, so as professionals, not as charity, a community and recreation center, commercial space for Black-owned businesses, culture as an economic engine, not an afterthought, culture that sustains itself and pays our people. Looking at Nanaimo Arts and Cultural District in British Columbia with $154 million in GDP impact and $12.8 million in tax revenue annually. These are not experiments, they're Canadian solutions. We do not just build housing, we build wealth, we build stability, we build futures, 430 futures. So the choice is yours. Will you let the bulldozers finish their job, or will you help us build a cultural district that stands as a fortress for our heritage and an engine for our future? Our ask for council today is to transfer Cogswell Parcel D to the New Roots Community Land Trust for African Nova Scotian Cultural District. Commit to federal CMHC funding and municipal capital allocation. Enshrine African Nova Scotian representation in legislation and policy, not just land acknowledgements. Restore the Gottingen name to the section now called Novalee Drive. That renaming in the 1980s was a deliberate act of segregation and erasure. And fifth, direct staff to enact African Nova Scotian planning principles in the North End, similar to those in Upper Hamlin's Plain. Council members, I'm asking you for something simple. Oh, time. I am asking not for the chance to try, not for the guarantee of success, the chance to try and fail if we fail, the chance to build something that works if we build something that works. The young people in my community, the ones building basketball courts, selling lemonade, the ones painting murals, the ones organizing for change, they're all watching. The question before you is not whether this will
Sir,
work.
your time is up. If you're just a summation, a quick summation.
I was about to end, actually. The question is, will you give us the chance? The time for promises is over. The time for action is now. Together, let us build something that can't be bulldozed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So, members of the gallery, respectfully, we don't allow clapping. So if you don't mind, we'll be quietly respond with smiles of appreciation. How's that? Thank you very much. And we do have a question for you, Mr. Morton, from Councillor Kent.
Hi, yes, thank you. Thank you very much for coming in and sharing that. I know that that's your passion. Can you just answer a couple questions for me? The new Roots, and I know it's the community grant. How long has that been operational?
We're better known as New Roots. The official name is the North and Halifax Community Land Trust. New Roots came about after community consultation and wanting to establish new roots where we once resided.
Okay, and how long?
We've been around since the summer of 2023. We came to council May 16th, 2024. The staff recommendation came back September 2nd or 3rd. It was really non-committal, and we haven't heard from council since, which is what brought me back tonight.
Okay, good. And what parcel are you asking for again?
Parcel D. I think it's adjacent to the casino.
Okay, that's the part I didn't get. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. We have one more question, and coming from Councillor Hinch.
Yes, Trino, thank you. Thank you for presenting tonight. So my question is that what is your hope if Parcel D, well, you pretty much said what your hope was for Parcel D.
For time, no?
Do you have any other levels of government asking for funding if you do get this Parcel D?
We've had talks with CMHC essentially we have a lot of people willing to help us. The YMCA, we had talks, a very great conversation about a community center in the bottom of the building. Everyone from community who's been a part of consultation wants that because of the missed opportunity with St. Pat. So we have a lot of partners. We talked to Dora, who was instrumental in a lot of the development in Coma, getting African Nova Scotians their Red Seal. So we have a lot of people sitting on their hands waiting to help, but until we have that piece of paper, and Curtis Wiley and all the success he had in Upper Hamlet's Plains, he's willing to connect us with the developer, working with them once we have a commitment from the municipality. So we have a lot of partners and people in place willing to help us. It's just they're kind of sitting on their hands waiting for us to have some buy-in from the municipality.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morton. Thank you. Our next speaker is Sydney Haynes, then Lori Batten, and then Alan Giacolone. Welcome.
Thank you. I am here today to talk about the power of community and what it has come to mean to me. I speak as someone who has, over the last 4 years, shifted my own mindset from one that is car-centric to a person who routinely walks in buses across the city. I came into Halifax for university from a very rural area of Nova Scotia, as I grew up on a dirt road named after my great-great-uncle level of rural. I anxiously awaited my 16th birthday so I could start learning how to drive, and I purchased my first car as soon as I was legally and financially able to do so. Because living a 30-minute drive out from civilization in any direction meant driving and owning a vehicle equated personal freedom. Needless to say, moving to the city was a huge culture shock. This past summer, I got wrapped up in the debate over bike lanes and active transportation infrastructure. I started following along with the issue due to the fact that local folks I follow online just instantly happen to be cyclists. I may not be a cyclist, but I know a logically fallacious debate when I see one, so I offered to speak in support of the bike infrastructure at the rally in June. I'd never before thought to ride a bike in the city, because my only previous experience biking was with my sister and I, riding down our dirt road as children. Since the rally, I have become welcomed with open arms to a new community, those of the local cyclists. I have attended several group rides with the Kittical and Critical Rass movements. My favorite memory is riding down the downtown core for the Halloween party with everyone dressed in costumes and biking to a playlist of Halloween music. These people have been incredibly kind, thoughtful, and courteous to me. I've had offers to borrow people's expensive e-bikes so I can trial riding one on my own. I've been provided with newfound connections across a large, intergenerational cohort. I have also gotten to listen to these people recount countless stories of their own lives being put in danger just by virtue of their choice in mode of transportation. Their stories remind me of my own struggles moving across the city. I have had countless close calls of drivers blocking pedestrian crossings and not slowing down for me in my times walking just from the North End to classes. I've had to scream at drivers to pay attention to the road. Existing in the city as a pedestrian is becoming scary and more risky as our road deaths this past year happened at an astounding rate. Whatever happened to your Vision Zero promises? When I walk to the campus from the North End, walk along Windsor Street, up Quinpool, and then along Vernon as long as possible, I discovered this route is relatively safe because Vernon is a traffic-calmed, bike-centric pathway with crossing guards along some intersections for younger school-aged children. As I head to campus in the early mornings, the crossing guard at Vernon and Julie bellows a welcoming, "Good morning, have a good day at work, school, or wherever you're headed." Each day, I smile and tell him thank you as I cross, also with his protection. Several months ago, a new addition was made to this intersection, a makeshift sign and flowers as a memorial for Alex Wortman, who died from a reckless impaired driver nearby the intersection I routinely cross every day on my way to class. She, like me, was also a student of King's and Dal who sat beside me in one of my English courses. Now, when I cross that road, I also witness her memorial. Dried, dead flowers and a small hairbrush zip-tied to the stop sign pole. No one in Halifax should have to fear dying via vehicular collision. All this to say, as someone who is not currently a daily cyclist, I resoundingly support the continuation of the completion of our proposed protected bike network with separate, safe infrastructure where possible. As someone who walks across the peninsula every single day, I seek for our city to build safer pedestrian infrastructure. We should be building a city in Halifax that the young people of our universities want to build their lives in, not one that they're killed by. I know we are in a moment of proposed austerity from the province and the feds and likely yourselves, but at the end of the day, our future citizens' lives have to mean something more than the dollar signs attached to building a safe city. I support a Vision Zero of our city, and I hope you all do as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Lori Batten, and then Alan Giacolone, and then Laura Seefeld. Lori is on Zoom.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Good evening, councillors and members of the Budget Committee. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today via Zoom. My name is Lori Batten, and I'm a resident of Sambro. I'm a parent of 3 young children, a 1, 2, and a 4-year-old. I'm a runner, a daily walker, and the founder of Safer Steps Chebucto. It's a community-led initiative advocating for safer, more walkable, and better connected communities from Armdale through to the Pennants. I want to begin by sincerely thanking our District 11 councillor, Patty Cattell, and our MLA, Brendan Maguire, for their ongoing engagement and support. Both have met with us repeatedly and participated in our working group discussions. They've listened, and that matters deeply to families like mine and to the organization I've created. Safer Steps Chebucto began very simply, with a wagon, a pair of running shoes, and the daily reality of trying to keep my family safe on roads that were never designed for people and communities experiencing rapid growth as sprawl creeps outward from the city's core. I walk my kids to and from Sambro Elementary every day. And when I say walk, I mean from the end of my driveway, a little more than half a kilometer from the school. That stretch, right up until just before the school, is posted at 70 kilometers an hour. Then it abruptly drops to 50 and then to 30 in the school zone. For most of that walk, we're beside a provincial highway. There are no sidewalks or physical barriers, and many vehicles travel far faster than the limit. We pass Micho's, a community hub, at a confusing intersection where drivers rarely come to a full stop despite clear signage. They yield, sometimes. Other times, they simply continue through. There are no painted crosswalks, no curbs, no flashing lights, and so we wait. And we wait until there isn't even a whisper of a vehicle. And then we cross very quickly, hoping that no one appears over the rise or around the bend. And as cars pass us along the narrow shoulder, we wave, partly in thanks that they slowed, and partly with the hope it reminds them that people, very small people, are on the road on foot here every single day. We continue down Old Sambro toward Ketch Harbor Road. Transport trucks thunder past. I scan the ditch, quietly planning where we could jump if a driver's distracted. There's no curb, no bollard, no buffer, no physical protection, just narrow gravel and trust. At Ketch Harbor Road, we wait again at the bottom of a blind crest, with the school just several meters away. Vehicles rarely stop at the stop sign. They come over the rise at speed and continue through. After heavy rain, runoff pushes us out of the shoulder and into the intersection, leaving us even more exposed on our way home. No crosswalk, no flashing lights, no physical separation, just timing, hypervigilance, and trust. One neighbor wrote to us, describing the intersection as, quote, a tragedy waiting to happen. We should not need a serious injury or loss of life to justify building the infrastructure that could prevent it. This is what a simple walk to school looks like. And it sends a troubling message to our children that staying active, caring for your physical and mental health, making small climate positive choices like walking 600 meters instead of driving comes with real danger. This is why signage and enforcement alone are not enough. Photo radar cannot protect a child at the edge of a 70-kilometer-an-hour road. Paint does not stop a transport truck. What saves lives is physical infrastructure. Sidewalks, curbs, bollards, buffers, and highly visible flashing crosswalks. Real separation, real protection. My husband and I are long-distance runners. We live track each other's runs by GPS, so we know that the other will make it home. Not because we're in the wilderness, but because we're on roads like Old Sambro, Ketch Harbor, Purcell's Cove, and Herring Cove Road. It is terrifying, and it should never be terrifying to be on foot in your own community. We know Sambro is eligible for the Rural Sidewalk Program, but that process takes years and enormous volunteer effort. Safety should not depend on who has time or capacity to fight for it. It must be built into how we plan and how we budget. Through Safer Steps Chiboucto, we're bringing together families, seniors, runners, schools, businesses, and community groups around a shared truth. People want to walk. They want their children to walk, and they want to age in place. They want to feel safe doing it. And this is not just about Sambro. This is about HRM and how we plan for growth in car-dependent communities while also asking residents to be more active, to reduce emissions and build healthier lives. So today, my ask is simple and direct. As you set the upcoming municipal budget, we're asking HRM to allocate dedicated funding for pedestrian safety infrastructure, specifically continuous sidewalks, physical separation such as curbs and bollards, and high visibility flashing light crosswalks in suburban and rural communities across
30
HRM.
seconds.
This is not a nice to have. It is the foundation of Vision Zero, the road safety strategy, climate action, and public health. How we invest now will determine whether children can walk to school without fear and whether families can choose active transportation without planning escape routes into ditches. We urge you to make safe, physically protected pedestrian infrastructure a funded priority in this year's HRM budget. I welcome any questions or comments, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so very much. Our next speaker is Alan Giacalone, Lara Seefeld, and then Dan Patterson, who will be on Zoom.
Good evening. My name is Alan Giacalone. I'm a frontline worker, a school bus driver for this city. I know what it is to do essential work that keeps our community running, yet too often goes unseen. I'm here tonight in solidarity with the cleaners at Alderney Gate. Picture this. You open a stall door in a public building. The air hits you. Vomit, stale urine, human feces, a discarded needle in the corner. Fluorescent light hums overhead, exposing every detail. This isn't a horror scene. For the cleaner on this city contract, this is a Tuesday. This is their work site. Let that sit. They don't get to recoil. They pull on the gloves and begin. They scrub, sanitize, and restore a baseline of safety and dignity to a space we all share. Your clean chambers, your functional city, it rests on this labor. We move through public space without thinking about what we leave behind, because someone else is assigned to clean it up. This is the logic of dependency. These workers wipe our city's ass. At the very least, they deserve a wage that lets them live with dignity. Our living wage policy was inspired by a contract cleaner whom former councillor Lindell Smith saw working multiple jobs just to survive. It was meant to answer a moral question. If the city benefits from their labor, shouldn't they be able to live? But a policy without enforcement is just lip service. At Alderney Gate, the contract moved through the city's tender process, and a union workplace became a non-union one. The process may have been automatic, but enforcement is not. City rules require contracts to be socially responsible. You were warned the math didn't add up to a living wage. Council and the city had the discretion to intervene. There was no action. The policy was presented as protection for these workers. Instead, they faced 100-hour work weeks, stolen wages, and retaliation when they tried to unionize. The policy failed them. It is a hollow credential. It looked like bureaucratic procedure, a process where responsibility is spread so thin that no one feels it. We learned not to see the work of these cleaners, and bureaucracy just makes that blindness official. Let's make these workers visible. Here's an example. We celebrate stars like Sidney Crosby, but the star cannot exist without the ecosystem around him, arena workers, cleaners, road crews, parents, driving to practice. The visible depends entirely on the invisible. Most of us will never be the visible ones. That's not a failure, that's how society works. But here's the truth. Life goes on without a star athlete. It grinds to a halt without cleaners, construction, delivery workers, road crews, bus drivers, caregivers. Council, you are the main beneficiary and steward of this unseen labor. You contract it, you depend on it every single day. That makes the dignity, rights, and wages of these workers your responsibility. Their exploitation is not an accident. We're asking for 3 immediate actions. First, ensure city contractors pay the living wage, $28.30 an hour. That's what it's at now, $28.30. Second, enforce the living wage policy with real penalties, including canceling contractors with violators like Imperial. Third, make Alderney Gate right. Force Imperial to pay every cent these workers are owed. If this council lacks the political will to enforce its own policy, then at the very least, stop enabling contractors who retaliate. Allow workers to unionize and fight collectively for their own wages and dignity. What's more degrading than cleaning up a stranger's mess? A system that treats the cleaner as disposable, steals their wages, and silences their voice. That's the real filth. These workers uphold the dignity of our city every single day. It is past time to honor that with a wage that lets them live with dignity in return. Enforce the policy, or step out of the way and let them enforce it themselves. Thank you very much. Join Workers Alliance.
Thank you very much, sir. Our next speaker is Lara Seefeld. Dan Peterson will be there after at Zoom, and then John Wimberly. So welcome, Lara.
Good evening. My name is Lara Seefeld and I live in the South End. For most of the year, I commute everywhere within the city by bike. I don't own a car and I love biking because it's fun, it keeps me active, and it's climate friendly. I work at Dalhousie and it takes me about 10 minutes to cycle to work, which is great because walking or taking the bus takes much longer. The only problem is that I feel like I'm risking my life every single time I get on my bike in Halifax, especially on my way to work. I live near the intersection of South and Queen Street, and when I first started biking to work, I naturally looked for the route with the most bike lanes. The problem is that apart from a tiny stretch at the end of University Ave, there are no bike lanes in the South End going from east to west. I first started going along Morris Street, continuing on University Ave, but I soon started avoiding these streets at all costs because I just didn't feel safe. On both streets, there's parking cars on the right, so I have to keep at least 1.5 meters distance from them to avoid being pushed into traffic by someone opening their car door without looking over their shoulder first, which I witness all of the time. That means that there's not enough space to my left anymore for cars to pass me while keeping the legally mandated 1 meter distance, especially on University Ave with a green space in the middle of the road. However, 99% of drivers will do it anyway, speeding past me way too close. If I have to suddenly swerve because of something on the road, like a pothole, I'm risking being run over by passing cars. That's why I started going in the middle of the road instead, preventing cars from being able to pass me. I didn't do that for long because I got screamed and honked at and insulted by drivers so many times that I just couldn't take it anymore. Every single one of these incidents leaves me shaking, and I can't stop thinking about how unfair and unnecessary it is for hours afterwards. I think what most drivers don't get is how powerless you feel on your bike when you hear someone driving up really close behind you, honking and screaming at you because you never know whether they might just lose it and run into you a second later, or whether I get so distracted by them that I miss another obstacle on the road, getting myself into danger. On the last stretch of University Ave, there would be at least one parking car on the protected bike lane every single day, so that I would have to go onto the road anyway. Because of these anxiety-provoking incidents, I stopped biking on these roads and started going along South Street instead. South Street doesn't have any bike infrastructure and doesn't have a very wide lane on my way to work. However, it at least doesn't have any parking cars for the most part, so I can stay as far on the right as possible, which usually prevents being screamed or honked at, which has started to become a very high priority of mine when choosing which routes I'm taking. Still, I do not feel safe on South Street either, and I think that that's just unfair. The city should do everything in their power to support citizens leading a healthy and climate-friendly life. This should be a priority. That's why I'm urging this council to not only hold on to their plan to finish the bike network, but to also complete it as fast as possible. We desperately need the planned bike lanes on Morris Street and University Ave. People need to feel safe when taking the bike. Otherwise, most people are just not going to do it. Furthermore, I hope that all council members think about what message they are sending when talking about bike infrastructure in public. Every additional person who chooses to take the bike instead of their car is one less car on the road, which means less congestion for everyone. Cars cause congestion. Bikes are part of the solution. But every single time someone powerful suggests otherwise, this directly translates into more aggressive drivers on the road, which is putting everyone out there in danger. Effectively communicating the benefits of bike lanes for everyone needs to be part of extending the bike network in Halifax. And I hope that Council is going to invest money into such a communication strategy this next budget season. After hearing me speak today, I hope that you understand how desperately needed this is. Sometimes, after I've had especially bad interactions with drivers on the road, I ask myself why I'm still doing this, why I'm still biking and risking my life every day. But then I remember how good it feels to arrive at work in the morning feeling energized instead of tired, how much I enjoy riding my bike even when it rains. And then I'm getting on my bike again, just hoping that I won't end up in the hospital that day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dan Peterson by Zoom. After that will be John Wimberly, Dana Descent, and then Jillian Banfield will be on Zoom.
Thank you, Chair, for this opportunity to speak. I hope in the future it's easier to figure out when and how to do this. I think we should be overhauling our tax rates so all districts have a better chance of being sustainable. For example, it costs us about $10.5 million more to provide basic services to District 14 than it generates in tax revenue. But we're told we can't afford things in the regional center like cycling infrastructure. Transportation is important to me. We hear a lot about congestion. One of the mayor's big campaign questions was, do you own a car? That seems to match current priorities and actions. We can't make real progress on congestion if we keep over-prioritizing cars and their drivers. If we really want to make progress, we should do what is working elsewhere. We can invest more in transit before BRT. We need higher frequency and less overloading. We don't need BRT to make progress on that. More and more people are doing their best to cycle to get around, in spite of persistent delays in building the network that should have been completed last year. You may recall that you all received over 400 letters in support of cycling in June. I hope you read them. People want options. You're hearing that tonight. They need you to provide them. More options helps affordability and could be the difference between living closer to services and work or spending many thousands a year on car ownership. The mayor's talked about transportation for everyone, and you may be thinking that not everyone can ride a bike. No one is suggesting everyone can. But it is true, not everyone can ride a bike. However, more people can't drive a car, such as children, seniors, and many disabled people. I know some of you, including the mayor when he was an MP, have attended or even helped out at Kidical Mass rides over the years. For those of you who haven't made it to a ride, ask those who have what they saw. It was all those groups who can't drive but still want to get around. There was a similar vibe at the deputy mayor's ride in September. It's such a shame to me that we spend so much time fighting something that is already a top transportation choice for people and could be for so many more. Even though we'll end up spending many times more on car stuff, no matter what we do. But somehow that is common sense and fiscally responsible. I want better things for the city. I have a vision that includes people getting around sustainably, comfortably, safely, and interacting with their community as they do it. I want leaders who can understand and share that vision. I am not alone. Please do better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Our next speaker is John Wimberly. Welcome.
In thinking about what to say tonight, I recalled a conversation with someone that I had. It was during a mediation training, and someone was bringing up a good series of questions to ask oneself before having a tough conversation. The basic rules were, should this be said? To ask yourself that first, and if so, is now the time to say it? And if that's the case, then am I the right person to be delivering this message? And so that brings me to the Robie Street widening proposal. Should this project be done? Should council move forward with this project? I believe that it is a fundamental principle that we should avoid bulldozing neighborhoods. That seems like something that should not happen unless, we have a huge broad buy-in, unless there is some incredibly urgent need to do that. And beyond just bulldozing neighborhoods, should we make decisions that a community is, essentially unanimously against? These are kind of the basics, the bread and butter of why all of you are in these positions to represent the people of this city. I have not met a single person in the area around Robie Street that wants this project to move forward. And beyond that, not just have not met someone that does not want it to move forward sort of ambivalently. I haven't met anyone that isn't frustrated, feeling depleted and hopeless with having to argue that their community should be safe, that their community should be walkable. It feels like an enormous betrayal. So should this be done? I don't believe that we have the kind of urgency established here to say that we should move forward with this. Is now the time to do this project? Lanes have not been extended. The bus lanes in this project, it's 2 driving lanes, 2 bus lanes is the notion to make this 3-lane stretch between Allman and Kennard into a 4-lane, much faster zone. So these lanes have not been extended from Quimpool to Inglis, where it is already 4 lanes or more. So if we're going to, it seems like it makes more sense to move ahead with that phase, where the road is already wide enough, where it's inexpensive, it's the low-hanging fruit at a time of budget crunches. And then, of course, is the matter of the tax increase as far as the timing of this. We're hearing that things need to be axed. And then, from the estimation so far, we're going to move forward with a $200 million project that's, I think it's about 850 meters we're talking about. That's about $250,000 a meter. Sorry, acre. Yeah, 850 meters. $250,000 a meter. That seems crazy. And then is City Council the group of people that should be deciding the fate of this neighborhood? Again, if the people of this neighborhood are so against it, I don't think that is the case. I'd like to also note that, just very quickly, our first speaker requested some small measure of restitution for a community destroyed by council. This is what I'm concerned about. We know better than to bulldoze neighborhoods. The city has made their apologies for Africville. They've acknowledged that the Cogswell interchange was a mistake, but we're still acting like it's okay to demolish neighborhoods. Our second speaker focused on the safety of getting around the city. This is what I'm concerned about. Lives that will be lost, citizens that will be poisoned. The third speaker on Zoom spoke of the danger of roads to families and children. This is what I'm concerned about. There are 250 children in schools and daycares at just one single location in the area affected by this plan. I've heard that there is at least one more daycare in that area, not to mention all the people who plan their trips to cross Robie in this specific far safer 3-lane stretch between Allman and Kennard. The fourth speaker focused on the fairness of city policies and people in this community having a foundation for a dignified life. This is what I'm concerned about. The fifth speaker, again, focused on safety traveling across our city and the fear we feel around fast-moving vehicles. This is what I'm concerned about if this project moves forward. The sixth speaker, the last speaker, also brought up these related issues. I think we should not move forward with a project that is, based on what we have heard so far, emblematic of some serious problems going on in the city. So please, 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 2 seconds left, please do not move forward with this.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dana Descent. Jillian Banfield will be here by Zoom, and then we will go to Pamela Cooley. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for the chance to speak today and the opportunity to do so. My name is Dana Decent, and I'm speaking as an individual, as a resident of Tantallon in District 13. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, and someone who wants to build a life here in HRM for a very long time. I came here today driving in the snow from Tantallon because I care very deeply about climate change and how it's impacting myself and my community and many other communities across HRM. So I'm here to voice my support for our award-winning Halifax program and to urge Council to adopt the draft budget's recommendations to actually increase support for the Strategic Infrastructure and Climate Fund. Now, there are many studies out there that have shown that investing in climate change now is a really sound investment. I think the latest research shows that $1 spent today can prevent $15 spent tomorrow for climate change, because we are seeing those impacts now. So it's hard to find a better investment than that in this era of austerity and prudent finances. So it's one of the most fiscally responsible things that we can actually do. But I'm not here to tell you about all the studies and the data that has shown this to be true. I'm here to tell you the personal stories of how it's impacting me, and it's impacting my neighbors, and it's impacting my community today. So, climate change is here. We're in an era of it. As I mentioned, I live in Tantallon. We experienced the wildfire several years ago. Luckily, my house was not affected. I was just outside the yellow zone, but we were watching very closely to see if we needed to be evacuated. And if the wind had been blowing any other direction, we might have been the unlucky ones. However, it did lead us to have, my wife and I chose to do a Fire Smart assessment, and this is something that the city supports, emergency management, and someone came out and showed us how we can prepare our home for the next big fire. So we cut down some trees, we made some changes on the property, and we hopefully won't have to experience the next big fire, but we might. We're a little bit more prepared. The very same year, it was the year of climate, massive flooding happened and our driveway completely washed out. You may remember, I think this happened in June, so fresh off of the fire. And I live in a house with a long, very long driveway, as do many of my neighbors. And so we were stuck. We couldn't get up the hill or down the hill. And it took multiple days. It took a while, several weeks, for someone to come and fix it. So we had to patch it up in the meantime. But we had to pay out of pocket thousands of dollars. And many, many people don't have thousands of dollars sitting around. I was very lucky that we had some savings squirreled away for rainy day, as some of us are able to do, but many, many people can't do that. So we were able to recoup some of these costs through the provincial disaster relief program, thankfully, but that reimbursement happened over a year later. And again, many, many people cannot pay upfront to simply use their driveway when a climate-related event happens, and then wait for over a year to maybe see some of that money back. And then just this last summer, many of us experienced the drought. And here in HRM, we are told to please do our part and ration our water. Our neighbor's well went actually dry. They had to go elsewhere to do laundry. They showered at the gym. They showered at my neighbor's mom's place. We decided to share our well water because we learned that we had a deeper well. It may have run, we were worried it would run dry, but they were our neighbors, so we shared. This is what we do in Nova Scotia. We help each other. So we tried to ration our own water. We have a toddler. We switched from cloth diapers to disposables, so less water, but sorry, HRM, more waste. Didn't seem like there was a win-win there, but we did our best. So all of these situations, the fire, the floods, the drought, they were stressful. They cost money. They cost money to us, to our neighbors who now have to spend thousands of dollars on drilling a new well and figuring that out for the spring. So we're thinking about the next big fire, the next big flood, the next drought, because we know with climate change, it's going to get worse before it gets better. So I want to continue to build my life here. I love living here. I love living in HRM. And programs like Halifact help make my dream possible. Halifact helps reduce carbon pollution, the source of this in the first place, and then it helps residents like myself and my neighbors and my friends prepare for what's coming. So supporting climate action now is strategic, it's financially sound, and frankly, it's our only hope for leaving a livable world for ourselves and for our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jillian Banfield by Zoom. And then it'll be Pamela Cooley, and then Jillian Ramsey.
Hello. Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm a resident of District 8 in the North End. I want to talk about why austerity kills joy, and without joy, what are we doing? I want to tell you about the joy that I get from living in Halifax, but also the ways that it's getting chipped away at by underfunding of various services. So I think we can all recognize that the Central Library is this crown jewel of Halifax. We've been proud of it for over a decade now. I visit it weekly. I take advantage of book loans with no late fees and a free printing allowance. Last year, we saw this council take a huge chunk of money from the Central Library reserves. When I visit the library, I see out-of-order signs on the printer. The touch screen in the elevator is papered over for months. And I worry about what other cuts are going to come to this essential space and its services. The Commons Outdoor Pool has also been an incredible addition to the city. As a peninsula dweller who has no easy access to beaches because transit doesn't go to them, the pool has had an outsized impact on my joy and activity throughout the summer. But more than that, it has become a third space for me and other Haligonians. We meet up with friends, and we even make new ones at the free aquafit classes. This is the kind of amenity that we need more of in Halifax. Last summer, though, half of the shallow end was unusable, literally filled with traffic cones. The floor of the pool had started peeling away the year before, and apparently no maintenance had been done. The smallest children were learning to dodge traffic cones before they could even swim. Another great joy for me is the Kitikol Mass rides that I help to co-organize. One Sunday a month for 6 months of the year, a community of grown-ups and kids take to the streets on balance bikes and all manner of bikes and cargo bikes and scooters. We do so to demonstrate the need for safe streets in Halifax so that kids can grow up to be independently mobile. We do so in protest of the slow pace of infrastructure that has been built for anyone not using a personal vehicle. Because Halifax has delayed and delayed and delayed the rollout of safe cycling infrastructure, many of our long delayed projects are now at risk because these winds of austerity are blowing through provincial and municipal governments. We don't seem to question the cost of road maintenance, which is one of the greatest expenses in the city. But this council spent the whole summer of 2025, and apparently today as well, debating the merits of bike lanes. A vocal minority of this council wrings its hands about slightly raising the fees for people to store their personal vehicles on public land, but thinks nothing of voting down projects that are designed to improve our urban environment in ways that encourage people to choose modes of transport other than private vehicles, and to make the city a more joyful place for everyone. In the decisions you make about the budget, I want you to think deeply about the kids and families we see at Kitikol Mass. These are kids who are being taught that it is normal to navigate the city on two wheels, that cycling is a joyful, community-building mode of transport. These are kids who might not want a driver's license, but you might not be giving them any other option as you continue to chip away at bike lanes and underfund transit. These are kids who are also learning about how this council affects them and their options. And these kids have a right for this council to directly consider their needs and their futures. Any cuts to climate change programs, active transportation, or transit are cuts that will damage the future for these kids. And we can't afford to keep taking things away from Haligonians just for the illusion of saving a few dollars on a tax bill. If we commit resources to our climate change and active transportation goals and stop bending over backwards to accommodate personal vehicles, we can also have a more affordable and joyful city. Thank you.
Thank you. Apparently Pamela Cooley is going to go. Oh, it's okay to speak now? Pamela, yes? Thank you. Welcome. Little confusion about whether you wanted to go last or you speak now. Thank you. Welcome.
Tonight. Thank you. Councillors, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Pam Cooley, and I'm the co-founder of CarShare Atlantic, which is the Halifax-based car sharing company we launched in 2008, and I sold in 2019. It now operates as Camionato with approximately 280 vehicles, including 8 EVs and a van for people who are in wheelchairs. I brought this company to Halifax as my contribution to the well-being of my city, as car sharing is a worldwide recognized solution for sustainable, equitable mobility. I'm here tonight because I recognize that its important existence has been left out of the conversation about traffic and bike lanes and bike lane spending, transit, and the current widening of Robie Street. I'm currently the executive director of the CSA Car Sharing Association. It's an international industry association supporting best practice shared mobility solutions around the world, and I work as a consultant to help cities reduce traffic pressures. Through this work, I regularly see cities far older and more constrained than Halifax solve traffic challenges and solutions that are smarter, more effective, cost-effective, and less disruptive than road widening. Halifax is growing, we all know it, putting pressure on how we move people and things. Congestion, rising infrastructure costs, emissions, and affordability are not separate problems. They are deeply connected. Simply put, the traffic we are experiencing will not be solved by widening Robie Street. It just won't. A project approaching $200 million with rising costs deserves a full accounting of proven alternatives. Rather than moving forward with a solution that is very costly, short-sighted, and actually a very old plan with outdated technology, focus on and exhaust best practice evidence-based transportation management, demand management to reduce traffic pressures. There's lots of things that we haven't done in this city that we're doing all over the world that have not been tried here. Halifax has all the components. They have transit, car sharing, cycling, ride hailing, and micromobility. What's missing is the integration and the best practice deployment of this. Transit is the backbone, and shared mobility fills the gaps. Car sharing is a particularly powerful tool, especially combined with modern transit. It provides cars on demand, allowing households to access a vehicle when needed without the costs of private cars and parking space. Each shared mobility, get this, each shared car share on the street takes 10 to 15 cars off the road. So with the current fleet that we have, is 3,000 personal vehicles have been taken off the street because of this. Rapid bus transit. Actually, think about that times 10 or 20 in each of your neighborhoods, having car share cars all over your neighborhoods. It reduces the cars on the streets and parking. Rapid bus transit is an excellent solution. I have no problem with that. But what I do have is that rapid bus transit does not and should not require new massive construction. It's actually meant to use the corridors we actually have. Worldwide, cities use this, but they don't build more or widen streets to get it. It's like it's the wrong approach. There's so much technology that exists right now to help with the rapid bus transit without the widening of transit. And this is widely known, and I'm not sure why our staff don't understand this. So from my professional opinion, I've got a minute left, please exhaust all of the, please get more information from your staff. We are spending $200 million in less than a kilometer in this economic environment. Where is the vision for this world-class city for moving around? Not once have I ever heard anybody say in this council or the mayor say, the vision for Halifax is to reduce cars on the peninsula. We're going to do this. Like, that is not anything that I've heard. Whereas every city across the world, pretty much, are doing that. Congestion pricing, and we took off our tolls. I was just like, it was so bizarre. I know that wasn't your choice. I know the different jurisdictions. Listen, mode shift does not happen without all of those things. We want people to walk safely, walk and roll safely, use bicycles, use transit. And by the way, modern transit, I wouldn't call what we have as modern transit. And you have TNCs, the Lyfts and the Ubers of the world. Then we have car share, so if you need a car, you can use it. And then those who really do need a car and to come into the city can use it and be freely to come. This is what's happening all over the world, and I
So
do
your,
not
your
understand.
time is up. If you would
we
like just
cannot
to
have this here
excuse
in
me.
Halifax.
Your time is up. If you would just like to summation one sentence, that would be great.
I just tried. Thank you, Counselor. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
We do have a question from Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to thank you for bringing the service to Halifax. I depend on it and do not own a car, and this is how I'm able to do it, so thank you. I'm wondering if you share your passionate words with the provincial government in any way.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm on them too, because, I mean, with the project that they're about to, what they say they're going to do, with looking at, how we come into Halifax and how we don't, I mean, it has to be integrated with what we're doing here. I just don't understand why, yes, to answer to your question, yes, I have talked to the province. In fact, I have done a project with them, and I took them up to Toronto to show them what to do and what not to do. In Montreal, I did the same thing. I took the minister to Montreal, and the minister at the time, and showed them best practice, what's happening in Montreal and Toronto, and what not to do, because Toronto is a mess. But there are some good things too, right? So listen, best practice is not being done here. I know that because I've been so, I've tried not to come because I'm so frustrated. But now, and I'm happy to talk to the Transportation Committee. I've been happy to do, but just show me the plan. Show me this plan, and if you can show me the plan, does anybody know this plan, the widening plan? Show me the plan. Show how it's going to work. Show it how it's going to have the effect that $200 million actually deserves. All of the things that were talked today were more important because we have the technology to do an alternative way. I honestly believe, you give me $50 million, I swear to God, or that $200 million, give me $50 million and I can figure that out. Okay? There's your challenge. I will do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Council. We're not done.
Our next speaker is Jillian Ramsay. And then after that, we will have Shitang Zhu Roy, which will be here by Zoom, and then Anna Sparrow. Welcome, Jillian.
Hello, Mayor, councillors. If 50 million is on the table, let me know. I have ideas. My name is Jillian Ramsey, and I am the Sustainable Cities Coordinator for the Ecology Action Centre. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. We recognize the difficulty of this budget cycle. Council is navigating a real tension. We are trying to maintain services and infrastructures that residents rely on, while keeping taxes at a low rate amid the ongoing housing affordability and cost of living crises. Our purpose here today is not to suggest that cuts should be avoided altogether, but to be clear about where reductions would undermine long-term affordability, community well-being, and public trust, and where continued investment will protect residents over time. A central example of this is the Climate Action Tax. The Climate Action Tax affords us climate solutions that protect our natural assets and critical infrastructure while reducing long-term costs from climate impacts. Research consistently shows that proactive investment in climate resilience saves us money. According to a study by Green Municipal Fund, every $1 invested in resilient infrastructure yields $13 to $15 in avoided future losses on climate impacts. This cost is otherwise shouldered by us, the taxpayers. The Climate Action Tax also directly supports the goals outlined in the capital budget report, protecting and improving existing infrastructure. Climate impacts are already accelerating damage to roads, stormwater systems, and public facilities. Floods wash out streets, freeze-thaw cycles worsen potholes, and coastal erosion is damaging municipal assets. Climate investment helps infrastructure last longer, cost less to maintain, and fail less often. This funding is also essential on delivering HRM's priority plans, including Halifax, the Halifax Green Network Plan, and the Integrated Mobility Plan, all developed through extensive public consultation. These plans reflect the priorities of your constituents, a municipality that grows while remaining livable, affordable, and resilient. The Climate Action Tax funds the work that turns those plans into action, including green infrastructure, active transportation, and flood mitigation. How we choose to grow and develop our municipality will have lasting impacts on our taxpayers. HRM is being required to advance special planning areas, particularly Sandy Lake and Highway 102 West Corridor, outside of the urban service boundary. While we recognize these are provincially mandated, they carry serious municipal consequences. These developments require entirely new infrastructure, continuous tax funding for long-term servicing costs, and are inherently car-dependent. Reports show that these developments will increase car congestion and traffic along major roads. They also threaten natural systems that provide essential ecosystem services to residents for free. And this is a clear example of how sprawl costs us all. What makes this especially challenging is that the province is requiring multiple special planning areas to advance at the same time. This creates immediate and substantial costs to HRM, both to build new infrastructure and divert attention from maintaining what already exists. We are asking Council to work with the province to establish a more sustainable pace for our regional growth and to advocate for the removal of the most costly and least appropriate special planning areas. Looking ahead, the suburban plan is underway, and the study area contains some of HRM's most vital and threatened green and blue spaces, as well as recreation opportunities. The absence of funding or new funding for parkland and wilderness acquisition is concerning in this context. Budget for land protection now is far more affordable than attempting to retrofit solutions later. Lots of examples of that in recent years. We also want to highlight parts of the budget that we strongly support. Continued funding for bike lanes reduces urban congestion, lowers road maintenance costs, and improves transportation efficiency. We support investments in main streets and local businesses, business districts to build complete walkable communities. And we're glad to see increased funding for Accessibus and safer bus stops in rural and suburban areas. We're also genuinely pleased to see strong investment in Halifax Fire and Emergency in this budget. This funding supports their ability to keep our communities safe. Of course, we need to acknowledge the upsetting reality driving the growing need for emergency response. Increased fires, floods, and extreme weather events are direct consequences of the climate crisis. Investing in climate solutions is one of the most effective ways we can support first responders, protect our communities, and reduce long-term emergency service costs. In closing, this budget emphasizes long-term value, responsible growth, and public trust. The Climate Action Tax is central to all three. We urge Council to protect climate funding, question the affordability of sprawl-driven growth, and continue investing in the natural and built infrastructure that keeps our municipalities safe, livable, and financially stable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Shitangshu Roy, and by Zoom.
Good evening, all. A politician in 2023 once said at a smart energy event that to ignore the incredible economic opportunities of low carbon infrastructure offers would be a missed opportunity unlike any other in modern times. He said that this is not the moment to take our foot off the pedal, the bicycle pedal, and we need to go faster, further, and further in the fight against climate change. And ultimately, they also said that we have a responsibility to hand off a livable planet to the next generation. This politician was our mayor, Andy Fillmore, and one I voted for in the past because of his climate agenda. One where I was also surprised to hear had put in a motion to consider cutting climate funding. So where are we today? A record 46 centimeters of snow hit Toronto this Sunday. We were part of that bigger snowstorm, and we were literally coming off one of the biggest snowstorms in North America in decades. And I want you to consider this too. We had a series of forest fires in last August. And, we were all there when we heard those critical emergency alerts. And we've had, many of us, and we've had a speaker today talk about how those fires that have been impacting our region impacted them. It happened in 2023 in Tantallon, where that speaker was from. It happens, it seems, every other year. But in the 20 years I've been in Halifax, it just wasn't a normal thing. And suddenly it's the new normal. But councillors, this isn't normal. This shouldn't be normal. It isn't normal. It shouldn't be normal that we've had a top 10 hottest years in human record happening last decade. And so when you hear that Halifax City Council is considering cutting Halifax funding in 1/3, they're considering cutting funding from a plan that's won awards, internationally has been an exemplar in municipal climate planning, that's shown tangible results, it concerns. And I think, yes, we need more accountability on the plan. I think, there's a dashboard being developed and that needs to be further invested in. We need to see where this money, our tax money, is going. But to talk about cutting 1/3 of our budget, more, it seems, than any of the other areas that are being considered, that doesn't seem prudent. This is our city's life, our citizens' life that is being put in threat. And look, I do understand, as the speaker from EAC identified, there are real considerations when council is considering a budget. And I also feel the pain point of paying property tax, and I understand the need to limit the increase. I appreciate Councillor, but I will reiterate that a concern that councillor shared and that I'm hearing from others is that this is not, especially young people, this is not the time to be de-investing from climate funding, for we are putting our city in peril. In 2023, those Tantallon fires that were mentioned cost $165 million in insured damage. Hurricane Fiona in Atlantic Canada cost us $660 million. And so that $6 million that we're talking about cutting right now is going to bite us back in the future. So really, I think this question is, do we cut $6 million now or save tens of millions later by putting the investment in early on? There's also been times that I've learned of how this climate funding has been used to leverage further grants at the federal and foundation levels in the millions. And so this is wise investment, and not to mention the moral imperative and for us to transition to a green economy. Look, I'll end with this. I remember hearing stories about my family in Bangladesh and West Bengal talk about losing homes and businesses to climate disasters. And I thought, you know what, at least it's not here. I remember getting caught up in urban floods in 2018 in Fredericton, record floods, and standing on a bridge in a city that was all underwater, and being at least it's not Halifax. And it all seemed distant then. But then we've had our wake-up call, councillors. This is not the time to de-invest. This is not the time to take away from future generations. Actually, not even future generations, from you, me, us, our current generation. We should not take from Halifax in the future for the short-sightedness of today. As that wise mayor once said, this is not the moment to take off our foot from the pedal. The bicycle pedal, we need to go further and faster in the fight against climate change. I'll end with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Anna Sparrow, and then Andrew DeVoe. And after that will be Angela Giz by Zoom. So welcome, Anna.
Hi, my name's Anna, and I'm a District 8 resident. I'm here to speak on the city's Breast Reserve project, or the widening of Robie Street, but I'd also like to express my solidarity with the janitorial staff experiencing job loss due to the city's union busting practice of contract flipping, rehire those staff, and give them a living wage. But here's what I came for. The city's bus reserve project could also be considered an urban renewal project or a suburban expansion project, where a city expands roads by displacing poor and racialized communities to make it more convenient for suburbanites to visit the city. Chicago did this in the post-war era by expanding their downtown loop to facilitate travel to and from the city core, resulting in the displacement of multiple communities and further drawing existing racial and economic lines. How does this program differ? Well, in Chicago's case, they at least attempted to offer housing solutions to the individuals they displace. In our city's case, they are leaving that responsibility to landlords to communicate to their tenants that their homes are getting torn down with no promise of housing at similar price points. This project commits $200 million to tearing down trees and contributing to housing insecurity. I don't support this project. The city could invest in improving working conditions for bus drivers, improve living and renting conditions in the city, installing bidirectional lanes, making buses cheaper to ride, or contributing to the many initiatives highlighted in the public hearing today. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andrew DeVoe, and then Angela Giz by Zoom, and then Benjamin Kelly. Welcome, Andrew.
I want to thank the committee for including my participation in this session. My name is Andrew DeVoe, and I'm a resident of District 8, Halifax North End. And I'm here this evening representing the interests of the Turret Art Space Society and the Greater Halifax Arts Coalition. HRM's recent decision to reject the Turret's capital funding application made to Council via the Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee, in part due to budgetary constraints, worsens an existential need for arts infrastructure in HRM, and works against the municipality's own stated initiatives to support growth in the creative sector. My concerns go beyond the uncertain future of the Khyber building. This decision highlights a larger crisis of dedicated arts and culture space in our city. Victoria, British Columbia, and other municipalities of similar size to HRM are directly funding art centers and fostering their own regional creative ecosystems. Halifax, however, has no comparable network of art centers or cultural venues. Nova Scotia's per capita exports of cultural products trails the national average by over 70%. I've included a citation for that statistic in my supplementary written statement. Strategic investment in arts initiatives has a proven dollar-for-dollar return in economic generation. It provides sector-wide benefits to arts workers, it drives tourism, and improves quality of life for residents through increased civic engagement and social cohesion. I think it is helpful to frame the allocation of sustaining and operating funding for arts organizations not as charity or a handout, but as a form of harm reduction and also a surety against cultural decline. Every dollar that goes towards artist-run centers, cultural institutions, institutional programming, performances, and festivals provides opportunities to leverage creative industries to bolster productivity across other areas of the local economy. Artists and cultural workers have been left behind by the systems that should support their livelihoods. I ask that Council consider the potential of artists and nonprofits to better contribute to the tax base in exchange for robust and accessible institutional funding. These things are not mutually exclusive. Thank you. Oh, and I welcome any questions if there are any.
Thank you. I do not see any councillors with a question. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Angela Giz by Zoom. Is that withdrawn? Okay. So our next speaker is Benjamin Kelly, and then it will be Kelly Snare, and then it will be Rochelle Owen. Welcome.
Hey, my name is Benjamin Kelly. I'm a lifelong resident of the suburban industrial wasteland known as Harrietsfield. I work as a longshoreman on the Halifax waterfront, and I am currently the chair of Workers Alliance Halifax. I'm here today in solidarity with janitors from both GDI and Imperial Cleaners. In January of last year, janitors working at Alderney Gate, who are unionized with SEIU Local 2, ratified a new collective agreement with GDI which included wage and benefit gains. Weeks later, in February, the cleaning contract was flipped to a non-union contractor, Imperial Cleaners. In addition to breaking the janitors' union and removing the hard-won collective agreement, it has resulted in deteriorating conditions for the janitorial workers. Canada's labour laws are crafted to prevent unionization, and this is particularly the case in Nova Scotia. This is evidenced by the continual decline in percentage of unionization across all industries. Workers naturally organize and unite, but laws are created to prevent us from organizing in order to keep our wages low, working conditions cheap, and political power at a minimum. I'll briefly give a common example of a unionization process in Nova Scotia to illustrate, apologies, to illustrate the difficulty involved. Ostensibly, there are laws on the books that workers cannot be fired or targeted for attempting to unionize. Anyone with experience in organizing knows these laws are rarely, if ever, enforced, and if so, long after the union drive has been defeated. The workers who want to unionize must then work in secret to gather a majority of signed union cards from the shop to then present to the labor board. They cannot hold open meetings for fear of retaliation, and thus cannot openly and democratically attempt to win over their co-workers. Additionally, the labor board imposes arbitrary time limits of 90 days on when the cards must be signed to be considered valid. Once the majority of the workforce has signed cards, voila, union, right? Not so. In Quebec, yes. In Nova Scotia, no. In Nova Scotia, the Labour Board, the all-powerful decider of what is democratic and proper, tells the workers that even though a majority of them have already decided to sign cards through a difficult and clandestine process, they must now wait 30 days and vote on it as a shop. Additionally, the unionization drive must come to light and be made known to the employer if it hasn't already. The Labour Board forces the organizers to out themselves and give the employer 30 days to union bust, intimidate, and lie in order to scare enough workers off of the idea of voting for the union. Again, there are ostensibly laws in place to prevent this, but anyone familiar with the process knows they are rarely enforced. On top of this, the employer is given ample opportunities to block and obstruct the process, using lawfare to wait out the union drive. I give this outline to show how difficult it is to win a union in Nova Scotia. It is a challenging and impressive feat of organizing and resolve, and yet, because we have no successor rights in Nova Scotia, a contract flip can crush all the sacrifice and struggle of the workers in an instant. The contractee, by choosing another contractor, effectively destroys the union and whatever collective agreement may exist. This is the situation of the 12 GDI janitors who had their contract at Alderney Landing flipped last February. 1 month after ratifying their first contract with GDI, the cleaning contract for Alderney Gate was given to another company, Imperial Cleaners, and the 12 GDI janitors lost their job and all of the gains they had struggled for. There's been an overall decline in working conditions for janitors at Alderney Gate. The union wrote to HRM that they learned that Imperial was not paying its employees a living wage as required under HRM's living wage policy. SEIU advised HRM that this constituted a direct violation of the living wage requirement applicable to eligible contracts awarded under the 2022 administrative order. In addition to lower wages, working conditions have deteriorated by way of inadequate staffing and not paying overtime. Lastly, Imperial has gone on an anti-union offensive against its workers, firing Stan, one of the main union organizers, as well as his cousin, who has since been reinstated. Stan remains fired, and his firing has had a chilling effect on organization efforts at Imperial. I'm here to demand accountability on the issue of the janitors, the living wage policy, and contract flipping. Specifically, I'm calling on Council and its various committees to 1. Immediately pressure Imperial Cleaners to reinstate Stan with compensation for lost wages. 2. Immediately force Imperial Cleaners to pay a living wage and overtime moving forward and retroactively to the start of the contract date. 3. Ensure that all city contractors pay the living wage, which is now $28.30. 4. Enforce HRM's living wage policy by implementing severe penalties or canceling contracts with violators like Imperial. And 5. Adopt a policy of respecting the right of succession across all HRM contracts. Thank you. Workers of all industries, unite and join the Workers Alliance.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Kelly Snare, then Rochelle Owen by Zoom, and then Andrea Hilchey Pai. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm a fourth generation Nova Scotian and a really proud Haligonian today. Just being represented, I think, by all the previous speakers. I'm a member of the Worker Action Coalition, a proud union worker. I think HRM should have regulations on buying union at all costs. I'm a proud member of the Friends. I am a friend of the Halifax Common. I just think of Robie Street and I look up at the canopy and I think about stormwater infrastructure, our built heritage, our diverse neighborhoods. I'm also a proud advisory board member for the United Way Community Land Trust. I do believe land trusts are the solution. I think we need 20% community housing as soon as possible to support future generations from wanting to stay in Halifax, beautiful city that we have. So community land trusts wherever possible as a solution. I'm also an artist, and I do believe that it is paramount to just the culture of Halifax to support artists at all costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rochelle Owen by Zoom.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak as a citizen. I live on the peninsula. Thousands of people have moved here recently. Thousands more will. Thousands arrive by car daily, and thousands by ships. This is thousands of tailpipes and smokestacks emitting heat and pollution. In the last number of years, I've had to adapt, changing my times and routes to avoid pollution, going inside when the weather inversions push down diesel and smoke. And there are solutions. They're not all perfect or 100%, and they are better than the norm. Better than the changes that have yet to come, adding more heat and wildness to a soup of pollution that ends up in our lungs and our lakes. I'm proud of our city passing plans with ambition, creating creative funding to leverage other funds, creating new jobs, new industries, and making our quality of life better. I don't think we should cut the climate action funding or fee. This work increases our richness and our ability to work and enjoy our home. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andrea Hiltje-Pye. And next would be Patrick, I believe it's Patrick Oserhoff, and then Jacob Hendren by Zoom. So, welcome, Andrea.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Chair and councillors. Thank you for having me. I'm here to just talk about the increase in the proposed 10.9% tax increase. I'm here as a homeowner. I'm here as a small business owner, and I'm here representing as the president of the Public Health Association of Nova Scotia. We know that these are not normal times. As our Prime Minister has said at Davos, we need to confront a very different new reality. Globally and locally, we are facing unprecedented challenges. Families are feeling it. Seniors are feeling it. Small businesses are feeling it. And municipal governments are feeling it too. Federally, departments have been told to cut 10% across the board. Provincially, Nova Scotia is facing a $1.4 billion deficit with a clear warning that municipalities must tighten their belts. This message applies here to HM as well. In moments like this, leadership is not about spending more. Leadership is not blindly finishing every plan that has started in a different era. Robie Street comes to mind. It is knowing when to stop doing certain things so you can pivot to planning for this very new reality. It is about spending smarter. It is about learning how to do more with less. It is about making every dollar that delivers its greatest possible benefit to the greatest number of people. This future demands flexibility, it demands focus, and it demands a willingness to pause, to rethink, and to prioritize. I appreciate you all carry a very difficult responsibility. You must balance those essential services, garbage collection, police, fire, with what the residents are telling you that matters most: affordability, housing, mobility, our climate. And you must protect the most vulnerable among us. Right now, the average citizen is struggling just to keep up. Halifax has some of the highest housing costs in the country, whether you rent or whether you own. Groceries, heat, insurance, and water are all rising, but wages, they are not keeping up. The average rent for one-bedroom apartments in Halifax is over $1,600 per month. The average sales price for a home is around $580,000, which is up $60,000 in just 3 years. For seniors and families on fixed or modest incomes, that is already a breaking point. To add to this, our local businesses are under real strain. We have seen beloved businesses like Vandal Donuts and the pet crematorium in Dartmouth close. These are not just storefronts. There are livelihoods. There are community anchors. They are part of what makes Halifax, Halifax. Against this backdrop, asking property owners to absorb 10.5% tax increase is not just a budget decision, it is a values decision. The increase does not belong in a vacuum. It does not land on spreadsheets or balance sheets. It lands on kitchen tables, on rent notices, and on empty cupboards. Right now, people in the city are not debating wants. They're making day-to-day tough choices. Do I pay my rent? Do I pay groceries? Do I pay for heat? How do I feed my family? These are not tales, they are facts that should stop every one of us in our tracks. We need not look no further than the Feed Nova Scotia report, where 1 in 3 households are food insecure. Nearly 1 in 3 people are receiving food support for children, 1 in 10 are seniors, and 13% are living with a disability. These are not our margins of society. These are our neighbors, our colleagues, and our friends. And here's the part that should really alarm you. 1 in 4 households using food banks have a job. Employment is no longer protecting against poverty. Private renters make up 70% of those seeking help. Families are doubling up, they're moving into rooming houses or leaning on friends because they have nowhere to go. People are visiting food banks more often than ever before, and in that, depending on food banks, have increased from 13% in 2022 to 17% today. A tax increase of this magnitude, at 10.9%, will ripple through our community. It is a domino effect. It will drive up rents, it will push seniors and fixed homeowners closer to the edge. It will make it harder for small businesses to survive and deepen strains on families already stretched to the limit. And it will undermine our shared desire to support local and build a resilient community and economy. Some will say, hey, it's money, we can do it. It's not a lot of money. But hardship doesn't announce itself. You won't see it at a networking event. You won't hear it in your emails. And you won't catch it over coffee with a handshake and a smile. If the families who make Halifax function, the workers, the seniors, the parents, and the renters, are being left behind by decisions that we make in this chamber, then we are not leading. We are losing touch. A 10.9% tax increase tells struggling households that their hardship is an acceptable collateral damage. Making housing unaffordable is not a housing strategy. We cannot tax our way into prosperity if it prices its people out of survival. True leadership means slowing down, listening, and recognizing that fiscal decisions are human decisions. We must do more to keep Halifax affordable. Because a city that prices its seniors, its workers, its entrepreneurs, and its young family...
Excuse me, Andrea?
Yes?
Excuse me, you are past time, but if you would like to just sum up with a quick sentence, that would be awesome. Thank you.
So what I'm saying is, it is not a city that thrives, it is a city that hollows from the inside out. Please reduce the tax increases, reprioritize our budget, pivot to meet future needs, and together we will get there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next speaker is Patrick Oosterhoff. If I said, Patrick Oosterhoff. Apologies for the mispronunciation.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Good evening, Chair and Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts on the plans to widen Robie Street. My name is Patrick Oosterhoff. I speak as a resident of Halifax, but also in my professional capacity. I'm an international consultant and have worked with the United Nations for over a decade on the Sustainable Development Goals. I currently work remotely from here with UN Habitat, which promotes socially, economic, and environmentally sustainable towns and cities. I advise countries, provinces, cities, and communities on how to align their long-term planning with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. My work with them focuses on these goals that I'm sure you are all familiar with, 17 goals that were adopted in 2015 by all the UN member states, including Canada. Having relocated to Halifax from New York City 6 years ago, I've come to deeply appreciate the city. I believe Halifax has a lot to offer when it comes to livability, its historic value and character. However, plans like to widen Robie Street is countering these values. As you might know, the SDGs, particularly SDG 11, calls for inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable cities. These SDGs are increasingly used to guide urban development efforts worldwide. The SDGs have been strongly embraced by municipalities and cities all over the world. I've personally witnessed that, and government officials, elected officials, keep repeating that they offer a clear, internationally recognized framework to tackle problems related to population growth, traffic congestion, housing shortages, and climate change. When it comes to the Robie Street widening plans, improving public transit is commendable in a sustainability context. However, it should not affect other sustainability priorities, such related to housing or green spaces in this case. Taking down 40 to 70 houses, many of them affordable homes, is counterproductive. First and foremost, since we are in a severe housing crisis, and this may have not been the case when these plans were developed, but certainly in this context, it seems meaningless to take down 40 to 70 houses and to have them rebuilt somewhere else to meet the housing crisis needs. Secondly, many of these houses are historical, adding to the character of the neighborhood, and demolishing them affects the city's historical value, which is important for attracting tourism, which also helps grow the city. In addition, 80 mature trees have to be removed. As we all know, trees enhance air and water quality, they reduce urban heat, they manage stormwater and absorb carbon. The proposal to remove 80 mature trees to widen an already major roadway is concerning from an environmental and livability perspective. Investing $200 million in a plan that dials back on many sustainability priorities that I've outlined is not viable. Such an investment prioritizes road expansion over affordable housing, active transportation, green spaces, and climate resilience. Globally, many cities aim to reduce traffic when they think of urban transportation. Cities that I've lived in Europe, such as Vienna, Amsterdam, Copenhagen, they all have invested heavily in infrastructure that reduces cars in the cities, enhancing opportunities to bike and walk, adding to the fitness and the health of the population. Many of these cities are among the most livable and they rank highest in the world. And taking them as an example could be considered. At a time when cities are being called upon to reduce emissions, improve public health, and use public funds efficiently, allocating this level of funding is short-sighted and conflicts with the long-term environmental, social, and economic sustainability goals that cities globally aim for and that Halifax also should aim for. If there were absolutely no other alternatives, that's one thing, but there are alternative solutions such as time of day reversible lane option as has been proposed. While Halifax is growing, there is a small window to preserve its historical value and invest in a green and sustainable future of the city. Therefore, before committing to an investment of this proportion, at least try to take the time to consider other options, as has been mentioned earlier on tonight, and look into options that redirect the investments to other sustainable transportation solutions that have also been called for, such as bike lanes, etc. Thank you for weighing this in your decisions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Jacob Hendren by Zoom. Then it will be Sam Roach, and then Gabrielle Christie by Zoom.
Hello, my name is Jacob Hendren. I grew up in District 4 in Cole Harbour. Funny enough, I recognized Trino Morton from elementary school and just wanted to quickly add support to his request to transfer Cogswell Parcel D to New Routes. I think that's a great initiative. I also want to express my solidarity to janitorial workers who are affected by union busting by municipal contractors. So I grew up in Cole Harbour. I moved, I started school in Ottawa in 2018. I was sort of back and forth. And I'd love to move back when I finish school, like permanently. But a big thing preventing me from doing that is the public transit system in Halifax. it is frankly inadequate for a city of 500,000 people. I understand there are many people who came here today to speak against adding two-way all-day transit lanes to Robie Street, but I wanted to offer a slightly different perspective on the matter also from an ecological environmental perspective. I was very excited when the Rapid Transit Plan was unveiled in 2020, but since then there's been what seems very little movement on the file. We found out last week that the ferry plan will be delayed another few years. And in the meantime, like I said, the population of the Halifax CMA has blown past 500,000 people. There was a viral study going around last week showing that Halifax has now the third worst traffic in Canada. Some people will make the claim that that's a result of bike lanes, but the truth is that the situation, the congestion situation, is a direct result of decades of car-first planning and lack of a two-way, all-day, frequent public transit network. Halifax is not a small town anymore. It's objectively a major city. Yet, in my 25 years of life, the transit system has not fundamentally changed. It relies on conventional buses and 2 cross-harbor ferry routes. The Rapid Transit Plan finally presents a way forward to give our city the transportation system it deserves. And yet again, as the need for it is stronger than ever, we are so far away from that system actually opening. There's been so much delay, so much has changed since 2020. You've got to wonder if bus rapid transit is no longer appropriate for a city the size of Halifax, and if it's not better to jump straight to a rail-based form of transit, would be trams, what people in North America call light rail. In any case, a two-way, all-day, frequent rapid transit right-of-way is essential. Public transit projects across the English-speaking world regularly get caught up in lawsuits, injunctions, and the like. From England to California to Ontario to Ireland, key transit projects have faced delays, cost increases, scope reductions, which is essentially when the ambition is limited or reduced, or flat out canceled. They get flat out cancellations. Sometimes this is due to rich, powerful interests, business lobbies, oil and gas companies, car companies, parking moguls, tech companies, gig apps, etc. Other times, it's due to ostensibly environmentally minded opposition. I do understand the problem with losing mature trees on Robie Street. I don't think anyone's suggesting that cutting down 40 mature trees is a good thing, but it is a trade-off. And according to the project webpage, there will be 120 new trees planted as part of the project. Do I trust that will happen? Of course not, but I believe that's where public pressure can come in to ensure that the municipality lives up to its promise. If opposition does manage to successfully delay the project, it almost certainly means cost overruns. Well, if HRM does face higher costs to this, what part of the project will probably be cut first? Probably some of those 120 trees. On top of that, a lack of bus rapid transit or a reduction in its scope or a delay to two-way all-day public transit means more suburban development as the population grows. Ultimately, many more trees cut down, entire forests raised to build more suburbs, more carbon emissions, etc. I'm not explicitly advocating for you to cut down mature trees or even to widen that section of Robie Street. If you can do it without widening the street, please do. Maybe you should look into restricting vehicle access to that part of Robie. I don't know how you could do that, but it's an option. Maybe you should look into elevated rail like in Vancouver or Montreal. And furthermore, if a single person loses their home because of this without unspeakably generous compensation and guarantees of stable permanent rent, affordable rent, then that is completely unacceptable and represents an outrageous failure on the part of the municipality. But in any case, my reason for being here is simply to say that two-way, all-day, frequent rapid transit needs to be non-negotiable. I've seen some what I think are pretty bad faith arguments on behalf of some of the local opposition. Time of day reversible center lane won't cut it. We're still in the logic of peak transit. Procuring more buses to only get stuck in traffic won't cut it. I think the environmental benefits of rapid transit outweigh the environmental consequences of losing some trees. And I don't frankly believe that building a transit lane is the same thing as Robert Moses's racist urban renewal and freeway construction catastrophe of the 1960s. Climate breakdown is upon us. The climate crisis becomes more and more acute every single day. Giving 500,000 people the option to get out of their cars and get on two-way all-day rapid transit is what I think is an essential process towards a more sustainable future in a more sustainable city. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sam Roach, and then Gabriel Christie by Zoom, and then Pamela Johnson. welcome.
Yeah, my name's Sam. I'm here as a worker. I want to express my disdain for how this council has treated the workers of Halifax. In many cases, capitalist governments at various levels try to give the appearance that they represent the interests of the working class in a sort of compromise between the interests of labor and capital. For example, by holding particularly bad bosses accountable when their workers are forced to work in particularly egregious conditions. This serves to create the illusion that the whole people are represented, even though the unspoken condition is that most of us still have to work for an employer who profits from our labor to survive and pay our bills. But this council has not even pretended to represent working class people. At times, you've created policies that seem to be meant to help us, like the living wage policy that was mentioned here earlier. But you've broken any illusion that it may have been that you may have created this policy in earnest. This policy has not actually been implemented. Our freedom of association, one of the basic rights which is supposed to be guaranteed in a democratic society, is constantly attacked by the harsh limitations imposed on our ability to unionize. And when council has been in a position to come to our aid, it has instead stood idly by. All this was exposed quite obviously, I think, by the struggle of the janitors at Alderney Gate. Other folks have already talked about that earlier, so I won't go into it too much. But I would like to highlight one aspect of that struggle, the struggle of the workers at Alderney Gate, that hasn't been touched on already. Those workers are represented by SEIU. SEIU is a union composed in large part of immigrants and ethnic minorities. And these groups tend to be subjected to the most brutal conditions and lowest wages among my class. As a statement by SEIU Local 2 said, the Alderney Gate workers are particularly vulnerable due to their immigration status and due to working in a precarious industry. The failure of this council to hold Imperial accountable is not only an attack on workers, but one that takes advantage of the particularly difficult position in which our society shamefully keeps its minorities. We can't let this continue, especially at this particular time when we are seeing a massive and disgusting fascist, chauvinist attack on oppressed minorities in the US. We cannot slip one more inch towards a similar situation here. This council must do everything it can to aid the workers at Alderney Gate in having their demands met, and the people of Halifax cannot possibly actually be deceived into believing that a council which is proposing to spend $200 million on a useless expansion of Robie Street can't implement its own living wage policy. I say all of this knowing that there are likely some decent people on your council who do want to support workers like myself. Unfortunately, I do think that your ability to represent us will be severely limited as long as you serve in a form of government which was designed to keep workers subordinated to those who profit from my labor. But I still hope that you'll do your best to use your positions to support us when we make demands. Most of you likely have family and friends who are workers. Many of you have at some point in your life probably worked for employers who exploited and abused you. I hope that you can remember what that was like when we make our demands, and you can imagine what life must be like for those of us who have no prospect of a better life. I'm going to close by repeating the demands that Ben gave earlier. Immediately force Imperial Cleaners to reinstate Stan with compensation for lost wages. Immediately force Imperial Cleaners to pay a living wage, overtime moving forward, and retroactively to the start of the contract date. Ensure that all city contractors pay the living wage, which is now $28.30, nearly double the minimum wage. Enforce HRM's living wage policy by implementing severe penalties or canceling contracts with violators like Imperial. Adopt a policy of respecting the right of succession across all HRM contracts. I want to close just by extending my solidarity in general to all working people in Halifax, to the Mi'kmaq and Black Nova Scotian peoples and the various immigrant communities, and especially to their workers who are unfortunately forced into the position of being the most exploited among my class. And I call on all workers, working people who like what I had to say tonight, to join Workers Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gabriel Christie by Zoom, and then it will be Pamela Johnson, and then Molly Deschong by Zoom.
Thank you very much for having me, Mayor and council members. I'm here today to talk about the widening of Robie Street, the proposal for that. First off, before I get into that, I would like to express my solidarity for the janitors of Albany Gate, as well as solidarity for the Turret Art Space as an artist and lover of art myself, as well as I would like to stand in support of against budget cuts for the Central Library as a lifelong lover of libraries. Now let me get into it. There have been other people at this meeting who have talked about this subject more knowledgeably and eloquently than I have, so I'll make it quick. Put simply, as a pedestrian, I am worried about the widening of Robie Street. I live in North End myself. I walk by Robie Street very often, and I hope that in the future I will be able to walk through there peacefully with wide sidewalks, with lovely trees. I understand the need for accessible transit that goes through traffic efficiently. However, I hope that the council gives careful, thoughtful consideration of cheaper, less obtrusive alternatives to this problem. Because there are, as a previous speaker said, there are some positives, potential positives for the widening of Robie Street, but I think there are definitely some considerable consequences, as people have pointed out: the loss of trees, the loss of homes, the $200 million that this would cost in the first place for a solution that we are uncertain will work as effectively as the council may hope. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Pamela Johnson. Then it'll be Molly Deschamps by Zoom, and then Kirk Pinkney. Welcome.
Thank you. I would like to thank Council for this opportunity to speak to you about my concerns about the proposed widening of Robie Street. I come here to encourage City Council, not to encourage you to have Robie Street widened. Not that. It has already been brought to your attention that widening Robie Street is a very bad idea. We already know that road widening schemes are very expensive and only improve traffic flow for a few weeks to a few months. I don't believe there is anyone in Halifax who thinks $200 million is a fair price for a couple of months of increased traffic flow. We already know that creating a highway through the center of a city is disastrous for neighborhood walkability and for the health and safety of residents. My partner witnessed the death of a young woman trying to cross a street that had been widened to the size of a highway and which to this day is still choked with traffic. We already know we can't go on adding lanes willy-nilly. Since it doesn't benefit the community and it doesn't benefit pedestrians, and in the long run, it doesn't even benefit motorists, we might well ask ourselves why we keep doing this and encourage ourselves to do something different. And that is what I came here to do. I encourage our City Council to stop following this American model of centering car culture. I encourage Council to seek a different model. I encourage Council to have staff study how European cities are dealing with transportation issues and opportunities. $100 million would go a fair way toward creating a reliable transit system for the Halifax of the future. Congestion is not a new issue for European or Asian cities. Many of those cities went through a phase of following the car-centric American model, as we have done for so long. Like Halifax, those cities suffered the consequences, but those cities have turned their faces to the future, to design and build sustain integrated public transit systems that work for everyone, and we can do that too. We don't even have to seek inspiration in Amsterdam, Berlin, or Tokyo. Toronto and Vancouver have excellent fully integrated transit systems. The people of Halifax have every reason to put our public investments into systems that prepare our community for the future, not the past. I encourage Council to abandon the plan to widen Robie Street. Instead, I encourage Council to put our efforts into building an integrated system that will benefit all Haligonians of today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Molly Deschamps.
Hello, thank you. Appreciate what everyone has said, and I too would like to contribute to the discussion of widening Robie Street. And I'll be brief because so many great points have been made. I've been a resident in the North End for 30 years, and I have walked up and down Agricola and Robie and all the side streets around here, and it is no exaggeration to say that I didn't run into a single person or business owner who wasn't opposed to widening Robie Street. In fact, they were shocked at the prospect because of the destruction of homes and buildings that could be used for sustainable business and living. The destruction of trees, which we know can be replanted, but that's never a guarantee. I've lived in the city so long and have talked to city people who tell me it's very hard to replant trees, water them, and have them, rebound. So this will be a forever destruction. And these trees are really important in this neighborhood, given from Almond Street north, there are no trees. And as someone who works in the health industry, I can just point to the hundreds and hundreds of pieces of research that support trees as a benefit to our mental and physical health, not just to the healthy climate. So as Jacob was saying, I'm totally in support of a two-way, all-day, frequent, achievable bus strategy, and I think it is achievable without widening Robie Street. And I think my main plea to this council, thanks for listening to us, is that we slow down, that we have the courage to start fresh and consult with people locally and globally about the best way to go about this, to stay in sync with our values, for a beautiful, healthy, sane neighborhood and city, to stay in sync with the province, because I think sometimes the city and the province are not in sync with their development and infrastructure goals. So I just ask that we slow down and do a deeper analysis of this before we destroy further. And someone who lives right by Robie Street, as someone who I live right by Robie Street, it's already extremely chaotic. The amount of development going on in my neighborhood, the amount of traffic, the sirens, the noise. It's really not a sustainable place to live right now. And we haven't even started this supposed project. So thank you for hearing us out. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Kirk Pinkney and then Diana Sly. And those are the last two registered speakers.
First off, I'd like to say thank you, Council, for having me here. After years of saving and careful investing, I was able to purchase a home in Lower Sackville. That opportunity has become a luxury for many in my generation. We simply cannot save fast enough anymore. We all know this. That is why even the proposal of a 10% property tax last fall was deeply concerning to me. What was more troubling, however, was hearing members of this council respond on News 95.7 with comments like, "It's only a few $100s more." It unfortunately strikes me as a total disengagement from reality, when even the Parliament Budget Office reported that affordability in Halifax continues on stagnation, when almost every other major city in Canada has seen improvements. The fact is, Halifax has one of the widest gaps between household income and what can be afforded. A few $100s, $200, $300, $400, depending what your house is assessed at, is not insignificant when we're facing a 50% utility increase between Nova Scotia Water and Nova Scotia Power and Halifax Water, sorry. In total, I find it even the assertion that HRM residents should be paying any more in taxes a reflection of poor governance at best. I do, however, applaud Mayor Fillmore's stance that council must work to make the budget that works for Halifax families, not against them. Thank you, Mayor Fillmore and council. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. And our next speaker, Diana Sly.
For hearing everybody here tonight. I'm the last one, so I'm just going to say that everybody was incredible, and I really enjoyed, and I agree with so many people, including the people who spoke up for the janitors. And we need to, but I think overall, I'm just sitting there and thinking about how important it is to support one another right now, how important it is to listen to everybody who's coming here who lives in the city. It's hard, my first part of my life up to 2000, which was quite a few years, 32 years. I'm not, anyway, that's how old I am. It was in Toronto, and I saw how the city forced amalgamation, and how what that meant is that you have the suburbs who always, kind of outvoted the folks in the city as it grew, and what that meant to the city, and how hard it was for the downtown core to operate when you had interests of those with the cars, versus those who live in the city. And it's really, really important that we really wrap our arms around each other right now, and that we have the courage to support one another. And that means supporting the people who live in the communities, right? And that means supporting the people who live on Robie Street and who don't want to see the neighborhood destroyed. And they have that knowledge and they have that history, and they're standing up and they're saying, and that's hard to do. Even to come out and to speak and to do what you need to do. So we need to listen to them, and we need to take that right into our hearts. And we need to figure out what our values are. Are we going to stand with working people? Are we going to stand for a living wage? Are we going to stand for those small houses along Robie Street that have apartments that are still $900 a month? Because once they're torn down, they get $1,600, $1,800. We have the investment real estate people who are also pressuring against the tax increases, which I totally get for the regular folks are going to be really hard. But a lot of the interests here are people, REITs from across. They've bought up so much of Halifax, and and the developers who own so many units, right? We need to protect our neighborhoods. That neighborhood there is a gateway. Robie, for example, it's a gateway to the neighborhoods of Halifax, of downtown. And it's not, and I mean, what was ironic, I was here years ago when it was talked about the gateway to Quimpool was going to be that big building now that shades all of Halifax Commons. That was the big, that was going to be the gateway. Well, I'm telling you, this is the real gateway to real neighborhoods. Let's protect it. Let's protect that neighborhood. And let's really think about that area, like, for example, coming up from the Rotary Herring Cove. That's a fixed amount of space. You're going to have to run buses up and down there. You cannot widen. It's got no room for widening. Let's think of it that way. We've got a fixed space. Let's think of how you're going to, yes, get rapid bus transit in this fixed space. And let's be creative. And let's see what they do, as we've heard, and let's make it work. And let's all support each other going into this next budget year, and let's do what we know is right for each other, for working people, for the poor who need it, right? Let's support our libraries. Let's support our free spaces. Let's support our common spaces. Let's do that. Let's not feed private interests, like and let go of our affordable housing. Let's save it, let's protect it, and let's do that together. And I just thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's the entire list of the registered speakers, but we do ask if there's anyone from the gallery that would like to speak. And so if we could just have a show of hands for a moment, how many people from the gallery that would like to speak? 1, 2, okay. Just 2? Great, thank you. I was just wondering, members of council, if you might need a 10-minute quick bio break or not. But 2 speakers are good? All right. Thank you. Please come forward and state your name, sir. The gentleman in the hat. I think you were there. I think this gentleman was first. Yep. If you would just like to state your name, please.
Yeah, my name is Fraser Park. Thank you for making the time tonight. Long-time resident, first-time budget participant. $1.2 billion is a lot of money, and it's a finite amount of money. There's a lot of great ideas that we've heard here tonight, and I trust you're hearing these ideas every day. And I'm sure you'd love nothing more to have like your Oprah moment of saying you get the funds and you get the funds and you get the funds, but it just doesn't really work that way. And I think greenlighting those ideas requires a lot of money, and we know it's finite. And you're tasked with making these very difficult decisions of trade-offs. And people come to you with these ideas, and you believe in them, but then you have to explain to them why the funds aren't there and the revenues aren't coming in the way that we thought they were. And that makes your job very difficult. And I want to just respect that, and I really empathize with that. I'm a CPA by trade, and I make those decisions in my world on a specific organization basis, and it's hard to tell people that you can't greenlight everything that they come to you and ask for. Trade-offs are a real thing. But what I do think lies in here is an opportunity for us to just rethink and take a step back on how we're engaging with citizens about how this budget works. I don't think a 300 or 400 page PDF document is the best way for us to be communicating the results of the budget and how we're engaging with our citizens on an annual basis on it. I think it's, to check the clock, it's 2026. I think there are better tools that we can be presenting and bringing into the community. We can be asking people for their ideas and then also helping them engage with where are we going to find the money for that? What are the trade-offs that you're willing to take on? There's just a better way to be having these conversations that doesn't lead to us being forced to say, are we greenlighting this and are we greenlighting that? We can all point to when the province made the decision to pull the bridge tolls out, and there was no real answer onto where the $40 million was going to come into play for that. We need to have better conversations and understand the consequences of greenlighting things and putting things away. So I just ask, I know you're in your listening mode tonight, and I appreciate you guys making the time to hear all of the citizens out. But if I could just say, I'm happy to leave some business cards here. A friend and I are working to put together a site that allows us to take the city's data, put it on the internet, make it available for people to see, understand, scenario plan, have these trade-offs, come to you with more actionable insights, not just asks, but ideas that allow you to make your decisions better, to communicate with them in a more meaningful way, not just a once a year update of a PDF document, a more ongoing interactive way that we all expect in this world today to be making better financial decisions. Everyone sat at a table in their own family home and decided we can't have everything. We can't do, if we're lucky enough to go on vacations, if we're lucky enough to send kids to summer camps, we can't do it all. We're all used to making these trade-offs. We need to think about how to better bring in citizens to have these conversations. And so I will just say that I think Halifax has an opportunity to be a leader here. This doesn't need to be as hard as we're making it out to be. If we could just decidedly spend some money into engaging meaningfully with citizens about how we make fiscal decisions, they will be better understanding and not as animated, or they will at least understand the trade-offs that you guys are making and how these decisions are leading. So my firm belief here is that if all of Haligonians can see and understand this budget better, they can think more critically about the trade-offs that went into making it, and then we can all just act more wisely about the decisions we make making forward. So the ask here, thank you for listening. If you would like to talk or just have a conversation at a later date, I would be more than happy to engage at any point in time. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And now our next speaker, if you would like to come forward and just state your name.
I'm Ben Hammer. I'm back again, here
Welcome.
to speak to the Robie Street pinch point. It is a street that needs more transit priority measures for two-way all-day service. It's the spine of the peninsula that moves people. But with that 900-meter pinch point between Almond and Kennard, the current lane configuration is working. Vehicle volumes northbound are roughly double southbound vehicle volumes most of the day, and the very short period of time that southbound vehicles exceed northbound vehicle counts is only by a few vehicles for about an hour in the morning. This current lane configuration should last us up until the capacity of an articulated bus running every 5 minutes in each directions is no longer enough capacity to provide for the ridership. At that point, when we'll need to convert to rail to handle capacity of riders, I think it would make more sense to tunnel that 900-meter section. The cost of widening Robie Street has ballooned to about the same cost as 1 kilometer of tunneling, except rather than having 10 at-grade crossings at which a bus or transit vehicle might need to stop at the surface, grade separating it and having 3 underground stations. We could probably fit the station boxes in ways that don't impact tree root bulbs. It'll take some creative engineering, but we could probably tunnel under the tree root structures to maintain the stormwater management and other ecosystem amenities they provide. But grade separating that short section when it comes time to convert it to rail, that will buy us the capacity we need in the future beyond the current configuration that's providing the capacity we need now. It would be a relatively small budget add to explore such an option in this year's budget ahead. And I would consider, or strongly suggest you consider adding exploration of that future option as a sort of 10 to 15 year down the road item. Currently, transit is limited by the number of buses and drivers we have. So it's not a short-term solution, but it's going to be a complex engineering challenge. And the sooner we start exploring it, the sooner we can find solutions that meet current, medium-term, and future needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll just ask one last time. Is there anyone else from the gallery that would like to speak? So before we ask for a motion to adjourn, I would just like to express our appreciation to all of the speakers who came out tonight in person and those by Zoom. We really do appreciate the input and the wonderful dialogue that happened this evening. Thank you. And now I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Purdy will adjourn at 8:23 p.m. Thank you so very much.